Good morning. This is Debbie Royce, Empire State Development's Corporate Secretary. I'd like to welcome everyone to this morning's meeting, and before we formally begin, I would ask that everyone please mute your audio unless you're speaking. As we have our directors joining by video today, we'll do a quick roll call for the benefit of those joining us by phone before we get started. Acting Chair Hope Knight.
Here.
Hilda Rosario Escher.
Here.
Jerry Gleed.
Here. Here.
Michael Rosen.
Here.
And Benson Martin, designee for Superintendent of New York State Department of Financial Services, Adrian Harris.
Here.
Thanks so much for joining today, everyone. And Acting Chair Knight, you're ready to begin.
Thank you, Debbie. Good morning. Before I call this meeting to order, I will note for the record that I will serve as acting chair for today's meeting. I now call to order the meeting of the directors of New York State Urban Development Corporation doing business as Empire State Development for Thursday, May 19th, 2022. I'd like to ask everyone to please mute your audio until you're ready to speak. Also, I will ask that anyone wishing to speak, please be sure to state your name before you begin so that you may be identified for the folks joining us today by teleconference. I'd like to note for the record that in accordance with current legislation, this meeting is being conducted by video and teleconference. I will also note for the record that the public has been given the opportunity to comment on the agenda items by submitting their written comments by noon yesterday. I'd like to state for the record that no comments were received from the public concerning today's agenda items. As always, the directors have received the materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time during the presentation. At this time, I'll ask directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any of the items on the agenda. If so, I will ask you to please make the appropriate disclosure on the record, and then we will remind you to recuse yourself from any discussion or vote with regard to such item or items. Hearing none, the first item on today's agenda is the approval of the minutes for April 21st, 2022, the directors' meeting. I'd like to remind everyone to state your name before speaking. Are there any questions, comments, additions, or deletions of the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So
I
moved.
move it.
Benson.
Second?
Second.
Right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Continuing with our agenda, we will now move to the report section, and I will provide a President's report. So I hope that you all are doing well. And first, my thoughts are with our colleagues in Buffalo, and I'm sure that yours are too. There are no words to describe the horror, anger, and sadness that many of us feel. And it is all the more difficult since it happened in our state, in a neighborhood, and in a community that ESD knows very, very well. I know that some of our team, particularly those in Western New York, knew some of the victims and their families. We suffer and mourn together as New Yorkers. Earlier this week, we issued a broadcast message to our staff with information about assistance that ESD is offering to anybody that may need someone to talk with or need some support. And I encourage all those who may feel that way to reach out and gain some assistance. I want to thank everyone at ESD for the help during my confirmation process. On May 4th, I was officially confirmed as President and CEO and Commissioner of ESD by the State Senate, and it is indeed a privilege to serve. Every addition helped responding to concerns from legislators, providing updates on projects and initiatives, arranging meetings, and I'm grateful for the support and assistance. My post-confirmation plans include traveling more in the coming weeks and months, visiting different regions, meeting more staff, with regional offices, and seeing more projects that have happened because of ESD's support and leadership. The team at ESD has been working towards the implementation and launch of many new programs and initiatives that were included in this year's budget. The governor and the legislature has trusted ESD to lead the state's post-pandemic recovery effort and generate new opportunities and new economic growth across New York State. ESD is routinely asked to deliver because it can. Staff here is able to rise to challenges and exceed expectations. The newly enacted state budget prioritizes generating sustainable and meaningful growth across New York State, like support for small businesses, resources to help minority and women-owned businesses overcome systemic and structural obstacles, and reimagining job training through the Office of Strategic Workforce Development, which will work with businesses to ensure that New York has a pipeline of skilled workers to fill good-paying jobs. Also focused on venture competitions, which will be streamlined and expanded, and our tourism budget is back to pre-COVID levels. We have a lot of work ahead, and we will be staffing up in many areas and departments to facilitate these new programs. Earlier this week, we held an all-staff town hall to discuss the enacted budget and the agency's new programs and priority. It's an incredible opportunity to say thank you to our incredible team at ESD, and we look forward to executing these programs. That concludes my President's report, and I will now move on with the agenda. We'll now continue with the project section of today's agenda, and regional directors and program staff are on the line and will help present their items and answer any related questions. And we'll start this off with Vinny Exposito, who has an item from our Finger Lakes region. Vinny, when you're ready.
Good morning, Hope. Good morning, directors. One project for you this month where you're asked to approve a $300,000 capital grant for the Clifton Springs YMCA from the Regional Council Capital Fund Round 9. This grant supports a portion of the costs for the construction and renovation of 2 YMCA buildings in Clifton Springs, Ontario County, which renovated approximately 3,000 square feet and will offer community space for wellness, fitness center, as well as childcare facilities to meet programs and services that improve quality of life for children, adults, and families. This project was a total cost of $1.5 million, was completed in December 2022. Be happy to take any questions.
I'd like to remind everyone to please state your name before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 2A as presented by Vinny Exposito? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
I move the motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Mike Reese is now up, and he will present an item from our Mohawk Valley region. Mike, please go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning, Hope. Good morning, Board of Directors. I have one item as well this morning. I'm asking the directors to approve a grant of up to $10 million from the Upstate Revitalization Initiative, a capital grant to the County of Oneida to be used for a portion of the cost to construct a 5-level, 1,350 space parking garage located in the city of Utica. The incentive proposal was accepted by the grantee in June 2021. Oneida County is supporting the Mohawk Valley Health System by constructing a new parking garage adjacent to the new $580 million Wind Hospital located in downtown Utica. In addition to the parking spaces, the garage will also include an elevated helipad for medevac purposes. The parking garage will cater not only to hospital staff and patients, but will also support events at the being constructed now Nexus Center and Adirondack Bank Center, Utica Memorial Auditorium, and businesses expanding in downtown Utica. Besides the URI grant, financing for the project includes federal ARA funding, direct investment by the hospital, and county bonding. The URI capital grant of $10 million is 14% of the total project cost of $71 million. The contracts for the project were awarded on May 4th, 2022, with construction starting in June 2022. Based on the incentive proposal, ESD is recommending the board authorize progress payments up to $10 million, no more frequently than quarterly and in proportion to ESD's funding share in compliance with ESD's design and construction requirements. I'm glad to answer any questions.
I'd like to remind everyone to state your name before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 2B as presented by Mike Reese? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Benson.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. We'll now have Thomas Gaglione, who will now present an item from our Mid-Hudson region.
Thank you, Hope. Good morning, directors. The directors are requested to approve a capital grant of up to $490,000 to Cambridge Security Seals for a portion of the costs associated with the build-out of their existing headquarter facility in the village of Pomona, Rockland County, which includes the purchase and installation of new machinery and equipment to enable the company to expand their production lines and support equipment to keep up with demand. CSF is one of the world's leading manufacturers and suppliers of tamper-evident, tamper-resistant, and high-security loss prevention seals, track and trace devices, and allied products to meet the growing needs of customers across a wide range of industries. The total investment for this project is $2.4 million and will result in the retention of 45 existing employees and the creation of 15 net new jobs over the next 5 years. Project sponsor scope of work is completed. Like most companies, had a few delays due to the pandemic and the change in the original scope of work, but the original goal and job commitment has remained the same. The project invests in advancing manufacturing and enhancing workforce in the Mid-Hudson region. This project was originated through the Mid-Hudson Regional Economic Development Council and the Consolidated Funding Application Round 7 process and aligns with the work strategy of the MHREDC. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
I'd like to remind everyone to state your name before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 2C as presented by Tom Scaglione? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Benson.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Sean Malone will now present an item from the New York City region. Sean, you may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Hope. Good morning. The directors are being asked to approve a $500,000 ESD grant to IFG Worldwide in connection with a program to assist 10 independent fashion designers with grants of $50,000 each to offset production costs for New York Fashion Week in September 2022. Program, to be administered through IMG's Fashion Alliance, will support the return of the New York fashion industry post-pandemic, attract and retain New York's fashion talent, and enable more small and independent New York fashion designers to participate in recovery efforts. The global leader in entertainment management, IMG is the owner of New York Fashion Week, one of 4 major fashion weeks in the world, and the only one to take place in the United States, attracting over 150,000 attendees. In the fall of 2021, IMG first proposed to ESD the creation of an approximately $555,000 grant program to offset fashion show production costs for small independent designers through New York Fashion Week's September 2022 iteration. IMG was offered an incentive proposal for $500,000 from the Economic Development Fund in January 2022. In February, Governor Hochul announced the partnership with IMG, noting that before the pandemic, the fashion industry employed 4.6% of New York City's workforce and generated $11 billion in wages. IMG's Fashion Alliance will facilitate the program and work with the designers to compile disbursement requests and relevant documentation for submission to ESD. Applications were due on April 4th, and the announcement of the 10 awardees is expected later this month. With that, I'm happy to take questions.
Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 2D as presented by Sean Malone? As noted earlier, we do not have any questions from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
Moved.
I move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Continuing on, next we'll have the Market New York Grant Program items, which will be presented by Kelly Baccarizzo. Kelly, you can begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Hope, and good morning to the board. The Market New York Tourism Grant Program has 3 projects for the board's approval this month. Dutchess County Tourism, Inc. is a Mid-Hudson-based nonprofit officially designated destination marketing organization, otherwise known as a DMO. The organization will use these grant funds working together with the Hudson Valley Tourism Region to develop and promote an inclusive and expanded marketing project that will attract diverse visitors and demonstrate through research-driven marketing campaigns that the Hudson Valley is an inclusive, welcoming destination. This project was awarded a working capital marketing grant of $375,000 in December 2021 in round 11 of the REDC Awards. An IP has already been executed and the grantee is underway getting this project initiated. And the second project that we're bringing for the board's approval is New York State Tourism Industry Association. NYSTIA is a capital region-based nonprofit with a mission to serve its New York State tourism industry members through collaborative initiatives, research, and exceptional marketing. In coordination with I Love New York, the organization will use the grant funds to launch a multifaceted media marketing plan, specifically designated to address tourism recovery and resurgence as the industry recovers from the COVID pandemic. This project was awarded a working capital marketing grant of $534,450 in December 2021 in round 11 of the REDC Award. An IP has also been executed and grantee is underway getting this project started. The third project, Brooklyn Bridge Park Corporation, BBP, is the New York State not-for-profit corporation that plans, builds, maintains, and operates Brooklyn Bridge Park, an 85-acre sustainable waterfront park stretching 1.3 miles along Brooklyn's East River shoreline. It was awarded a capital tourism construction grant totaling $740,000 in December 2017 in the round 6 of the REDC Awards. These Market New York capital grant funds were part of BBP's $9.25 million project to make improvements to the park for visitors and residents alike. The construction included extensive landscaping, the installation of new asphalt and concrete pavement, salvage granite seating, and traditional park benches. To help ensure public safety, the project also included new security bollards, discrete abutment lighting, and weatherproof light fixtures mounted on metal poles. This capital project has been completed. If you have any questions on either of the or all 3 of these projects, I'd be happy to answer them.
I'd like to remind everyone to state your name before speaking. Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 2E as presented by Kelly Baccarizzo? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Benson.
Second?
Second, Hilda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. We next have the Restore New York Communities Capital Grant, which will be presented by Simone Bethune. Simone, please begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Hope, and good morning to everyone. My name is Simone Bethune. I'm a Senior Project Manager with Loans and Grants. Today we will be seeking Director's approval for one Round 5 Restore New York grant in the amount of $2 million to the City of Utica in the Mohawk Valley region. The project involves the rehabilitation, including asbestos abatement, of a vacant 200,000 square foot building at 1900 Bleecker Street. The total project cost is expected to be approximately $2.4 million. The City of Utica's December 15, 2017 application was reviewed, scored, and subsequently approved as constituting a coherent and cohesive project that aligns with the goals of the Restore New York program, as it is a rehabilitation of a vacant, obsolete, or surplus structure. The funding was included in the 2017-2018 New York State budget, and ESD sent the city an award letter on April 19, 2018. The rehabilitation of 1900 Bleecker Street was a priority for the region, as the building has sat vacant on nearly 10 acres of land for 10 years. With ESD's assistance, the building will be put back into productive use. Historically, the property has been used for industrial purposes, and with the help of the Utica Industrial Development Agency, the city will work to develop the property for light industrial use, which could support dozens of new job opportunities for residents of the greater Utica area. The project is expected to be complete in May 2022. Because the village has satisfied its obligations under the approved application, ESD is recommending the board authorize release of funds for this project. Thank you.
Are there any comments or questions from the directors with regard to item 2F as presented by Simone Bethune? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved. Michael.
Second,
Second, Benson.
all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Next up on the agenda are the at the direction of grant items, which will be presented by Simone Bethune. Simone, you can go ahead.
Thank you. The first item on the at the direction of calendar is a $500,000 local assistance award made available to the Queens Chamber of Commerce in the New York State budget fiscal year 2021-22 at the direction of State Assembly Person Catherine Nolan of the 32nd District of the New York State Assembly. ESD sent the grantee an invitation to apply letter in January 2022, and the grantee submitted an application to ESD in February 2022. The application was subsequently reviewed and approved to move forward in May 2022. Funding provided under this grant will support 4 Queens-based economic development initiatives: Next Stop Queens, the Chamber's business attraction program, a network and launch event to promote Queens as an ideal business location to industry-specific audiences, the Queens Tech Council, an advisory body aimed at supporting the attraction and retention of tech and tech-adjacent companies, the Queens Chamber Internship Connection, which will support the development of internships with Queens-based businesses and institutions, and the Queens Best Initiative, which is a digital platform that will highlight small immigrant and minority-owned businesses with a primary focus on the hospitality, food, beverage, and entertainment industries. The grantee has initiated these programs and has met the required milestones to be eligible to seek board approval. Therefore, we request the board's authorization to make this grant. The second item, the directors are being asked to modify a previously approved $10 million grant to the Adirondack North Country Sports Council, or the ANCSC, for the authorization of an additional $35 million appropriation in funding from the World University Games Project Fund, and to modify the project scope to include capital costs. This grant will fund the development of a 5-year implementation plan to secure the 2023 Winter University Games, which is the largest international winter multi-sporting event for student athletes. The competition draws over 24,000 student athletes to compete in various disciplines such as freestyle cross-country skiing, speed skating, figure skating, hockey, and snowboarding. An initial award of $5 million was authorized in fiscal year 2019-2020 and approved by the board on January 16, 2020, to fund the operational functions of the Games, including development of comprehensive branding, marketing, communication, security, and logistics. Following this, an additional $5 million was authorized in fiscal year 2021-22 and approved by ESD directors on January 20, 2022 for the same objective. Today, we're returning to the board for approval of a $35 million appropriation authorized in fiscal year 2022-23 to be applied not only to the operational functions related to the 5-year development plan, but also to capital costs associated with the lease and fit out of a suitable facility which will act as the main operations center for over 100 staff members that make up the functional departments coordinating the event. Approximately 2% of ESD's funding will be applied to the capital costs. To date, ANCSC has awarded a host broadcasting contract to Carr Hughes Productions and Echo Entertainment, selected their digital and broadcast distribution partner, ESPN, and completed the competition schedule for all events and venues. Additionally, accommodations for the delegations have been identified and are all either under contract or in process. ANCSC is also under contract with Van Wagner Sports and Entertainment to draft and produce the opening ceremonies, which will occur in January 2023. The project is estimated to be complete in September 2023. And I can take any questions.
Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 3A as presented by Simone Bethune? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Hilda.
Second?
Second, Benson.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Next, Bet Yee will present the Entrepreneurship Assistance Center's grant item for our consideration.
Yes, good morning, directors. This is Bet Yee. I'm the Senior Director of Entrepreneur Development at ESD. The Entrepreneurship Assistance Centers, or EAC, as we are known, is requesting approval to disperse funds for year 2 of a 3-year grant approved by the board back in June 24, 2021. The continued funding is dependent on each annual New York State budget appropriation. The 2022-2023 allocation for EAC remains at $1,764,000. We are asking the directors to approve disbursement of this amount to 23 centers at $76,695 each. 22 centers are entering year 2 of their grant period, and we have one additional new center, the South Bronx Overall Economic Development Corporation, was included for a 2-year grant to coincide with the timing of the others. Contract year begins July 1 and goes through June 30, 2023, whereupon we will request disbursement of year 3 dependent on the continued appropriation from the New York State budget. That allows the EACs to continue their support and technical assistance to increase business ownership and the furtherance of economic development to the low and middle income communities that they serve. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 4A as presented by Bet Yee?
I don't have a question, but
Sure.
I do have a comment. So I'm the former CEO of Ibero-American Action League, and they received, we had an entrepreneurial center, one of the centers. So I don't know if I should recuse myself.
We will note that.
Okay.
And have you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. As noted, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Benson.
Second?
Second,
All in
Michael.
favor? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Maria Mitchell will now present an item related to our Life Sciences Initiative fund for our consideration. Maria, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Okay, thank you, Hope. This is Maria Mitchell. Good morning, everybody. We are asking the directors to allocate $11,155,659 in life science funds for grants to 8 startup companies that have been recommended to receive Biodefense Commercialization Fund awards. This $40 million fund, as you may remember, provides grants to startup companies and academic centers to accelerate the development and commercialization of life science innovations that address serious infectious disease threats, including COVID, while also creating jobs and encouraging continued growth across New York's expanding life science industry. The 8 startups being recommended for grants were part of an initial pool of 177 applications. Their projects will leverage an additional investment of $9 million. An extensive multi-layered review process outlined in the guidelines approved by the directors on July 15th in 2021 was followed to evaluate applicants and narrowed the recipients to the 8 startups presented today and 10 academic centers that will be brought to the board in the future. Several projects do focus on COVID, others a range of infectious pathogens. Each grantee will be working with at least one life science expert mentor who will oversee their progress on an ongoing basis, establish milestones, and evaluate appropriate progress along the way in addition to their reporting to ESD. All biodefense grants were announced by the governor in a press release in April. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 5A as presented by Maria Mitchell? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Benson.
Second?
Michael.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Next, Jonathan Green will present a New York Ventures investment item. Jonathan, you can begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Hope. Good morning, and good morning, directors. Again, my name is Jonathan Green. I'm a senior director with New York Ventures. New York Ventures is requesting up to $1 million in a $5 million convertible debt round to support post-process. Post-Process is an additive manufacturing company based in Buffalo that turns 3D printed parts into finished goods with a connected full stack solution. Specifically, the company's hardware and software address bottlenecks in the additive manufacturing value chain, in that they automate the final post-processing step, which has traditionally been completed using manual labor. Excuse me. By addressing this problem with hardware and software, Post-Process enables customers to improve scalability, workplace safety, and quality control. The company's software suite tracks part processing through design, print, and post-processing step and is compatible with all hardware and software used by other vendors. The company sells a complete post-processing solution and has recurring revenue from consumables, software licenses, and other services. Post-Process has 75 employees, 46 of which are based in Buffalo, and intends to grow that location by 3 times over the next few years. New York Ventures staff is requesting, again, $1 million in a $5 million bridge funding round. Proceeds from this financing will be used as an operational funding bridge to the company's $20 million Series B financing in 2023. In that Series B financing, funds will be used to increase the team, improve supply chain resiliency, and expand sales in the European Union and APAC. Part of the due diligence process, New York Ventures staff and our External Investment Advisory Committee, also known as the IAC, evaluated the company's business plan and growth prospects, as well as the terms of the investment outlined in the memo. As a result of the analysis, our staff and the Investment Advisory Committee both agree that the market opportunity and growth potential offered by this New York State-based company warrants an investment by New York Ventures and recommends its approval. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes, are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 6A as presented by Jonathan Green? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Benson.
Second, Hilda.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Doug McPherson will now present an item related to Utica Crescent mixed-use project for our consideration. Doug, go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Hope, and good morning. For the record, this is Doug McPherson from the real estate team, and we have two Vital Brooklyn projects today. The first is the Utica Crescent mixed-use project, and we're asking the directors to affirm findings pursuant to Section 10 of the UDC Act, affirm the general project plan or GPP as modified, affirm that the project will have no significant effect on the environment, and authorize ESD staff to take all related actions. At the February ESD directors meeting, the directors adopted the Utica Crescent general project plan, and we summarized the main elements of the project's building program and design. Since then, on the advice of our design and construction team, we've worked with the developers on modest design changes that improve building efficiency. These changes caused a modest increase in residential square footage, which has allowed us to convert 10 studio apartments into one-bedroom apartments while keeping the overall number of residential units the same. Additionally, we added approximately 3,000 square feet of ground floor space and added flexibility to program the ground floor space as either commercial or community facility as leasing needs dictate. These changes have been reflected in ESD's design guidelines. HCR and ESD have each determined that the project, together the minor changes I've just described, will continue not to have significant adverse impacts on the environment under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. On March 21st, 2022, we held a public hearing on the GPP in which we described the project and invited public comment. Although we did not receive any comments at the hearing, we later received comments in a letter from the New York City Public Advocate. A summary of his comments and ESD's responses, which have been sent to his office in writing, are included in the director's materials. As part of our ongoing engagement with the city on the project, we also received a letter from the City Planning Commission, which is included in your materials. The commission called the project a beneficial use of an underutilized property, but also asked ESD to consider two recommendations: redistributing bulk from East 49th Street to Utica Avenue and reducing the curb cut needed to access the project's surface parking lot on Utica. We were not able to accommodate these two recommendations due to their physical, financial, and operational infeasibility, but numerous other elements of city planning's previous feedback have been incorporated since the directors previously considered the project in February. That, in our view, will make Utica Crescent a more attractive and successful building for its occupants and for the East Flatbush community more broadly. I'm happy to take any questions on Utica before moving on to Clarkson Estates.
Actually, I'm going to take these one by one, Doug. So any questions or comments with regard to item 7A as presented by Doug McPherson? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So moved, Benson.
Second?
Second, Michael.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Now, Doug, you can move on to Clarkson Estates mixed-use project.
Thank you. Today, I am also asking the directors to adopt a general project plan for the Clarkson Estates mixed-use project, adopt findings pursuant to Section 10 of the UDC Act, make a determination under SECRA that the project will have no significant effect on the environment, and take related actions. These steps would allow ESD to schedule a public hearing on the proposed GPP and thereafter commence a 30-day comment period. The proposed Clarkson Estates mixed-use project is the redevelopment of a parking facility in Prospect Leopards Gardens owned by the Health Science Center at Brooklyn Foundation, an affiliate of SUNY Downstate Medical Center. The project will be undertaken by Canva Housing Ventures, which was selected as a designated developer by HCR and ESD through an RFP process that concluded in 2020. Once completed, the proposed project will consist of 328 affordable and supportive housing units, approximately 80 subsurface parking spaces, and a 32,000 square foot community space to be operated by a Canva affiliate. The building will be financed with capital from the New York State Housing Finance Agency and subject to an HFA regulatory agreement, which will govern housing affordability and leasing of non-residential spaces, among other things, and further details in the building program are included in your materials. The proposed project is part of Vital Brooklyn, which, as the directors are aware, is a comprehensive New York State development initiative that addresses chronic social, economic, and health disparities in central Brooklyn and was announced back in 2017. The benefits of the specific Vital Brooklyn project include a new community hub on the ground floor, including flexible work areas, social service spaces, an indoor basketball court, childcare, backyard open space, landscape rooftop areas accessible to residents and other services to be operated by Canva affiliates. The general project plan would override local zoning, allowing for residential construction and generous community space in a district currently zoned for manufacturing uses, and allowing ESD to create design guidelines that would act as site controls in lieu of local zoning. A quick textual note, the design guidelines were added as an exhibit to the director's materials, but they were also added as an exhibit to the GPP. It was not our intention to make the design guidelines an exhibit to the GPP, and a corrected version will be circulated and uploaded to the ESD website. Finally, an environmental assessment has been prepared and found that there would be no significant environmental effects from the proposed development, and therefore an environmental impact statement is not needed. You'll find further detail on the zoning overrides in your materials, but I'm happy to pause and take any questions now.
Are there any questions or comments from the directors with regard to item 8A as presented by Doug McPherson? As noted earlier, we do not have any comments from the public with regard to this item. I will now entertain a motion for approval.
So move, Hilda.
Second.
Second, Benson.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Now I'd like to turn things over to Goldie Waxall, who will present today's administrative action item for our consideration. Goldie, you can go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Hope. Good morning, directors. The directors are being asked to grant an authorization to amend a contract with Nixon Peabody for legal services. This contract specifically pertains to legal services for the New York Ventures program, which administers the state's venture capital investment funds. The contemplated legal services include but are not limited to researching competitive market terms, incorporating program requirements and policy goals, and negotiating and drafting program contracts and other legal arrangements. Via contract executed in 2018, ESD engaged Nixon Peabody to provide legal counsel in connection with the program. To date, Nixon Peabody has provided ESD with excellent representation. Today, the directors are asked to authorize ESD to amend its contract, specifically authorizing an increase of $250,000 for the contract amount and authorizing a date extension of the contract through August 31st, 2022. Nixon is on ESD's pre-qualified legal counsel list and adheres to ESD's discounted pre-qualified counsel rates. Thank you. I will now turn it back to our acting chair, who will call for any questions or comments you may have on this item before calling for a vote. We also have project staff on the line as well to take any questions. Thank you.
So are there questions or comments with regard to this item?
Yeah, so if it is authorized until August, how come until August? Is it that it's gonna be going out for request for proposal?
Sorry, is the question why is it only till August?
Yes.
I don't know if any of the project staff want to address that. My understanding is that that we want to take time to take a look. We had just renewed our pre-qualified list. And we're going to do a review and see if there's any other firms that want to be involved in the work. Carlene or others, I don't know if you have anything you want to add on that.
Yep,
Thank you, Goldie. Thank you, Goldie. My name is Carlene Turner Beverly. I'm an attorney with the legal team that provides dedicated counsel to the New York Ventures team. And as Goldie noted, there are plans to engage in outreach to legal service providers that are on the new pre-qualified list, and Nixon Peabody is one of those firms. The New York Ventures team does anticipate being in a position to seek authority to enter into a new contract or contracts prior to August 2022.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I have a motion for approval of item 9A as presented by Goldie Wexel?
I
So
move the
moved.
motion.
Second,
Second,
Hilda.
Carrie,
all
second.
in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. There being no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I just have a question before we
Sure.
adjourn. And it's about the letter that we received about Penn Station.
Absolutely.
Do we have any update on that?
And which letter are you making reference to? There were two letters, I think.
I think that I just received one, and it was a group of people that were not happy about the development, and I don't know. It was involved. There were a lot of neighbors. The neighborhood was involved.
Yeah, so I think, two letters were received by the directors. One
Okay.
letter, we provided a response, and we can provide a copy of that to you so you can see how we responded to those concerns. The second letter, kind of largely some of the same issues. And we have been providing response via press and op-ed because the issues are basically the same. And you'll be hearing more about the Penn project at our next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I want to thank everybody for participating in today's meeting, and we will see you next month.
Okay. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All too.
Bye.